Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome back to this episode of Tools for Transitioning Humanitarians. And here is another tool that I have thought of presenting it to you. And I feel like this is one of the best tools that you can ever use. So that's why I really want your attention on this. And the tool is called EXCUSE-DETECTOR. So I have been talking about excuses, I think, in so many different ways. And I finally feel like I have found a very succinct and very effective, potent tool that you can use it right now to detect all your excuses as to why you're not really pursuing what you want to pursue and how to know if it's a reason that's really valid in a sense of that you really want to honor, or it's just you trying to create yourself an excuse to get away from doing the things, avoid doing the things, or delay doing the things that you need to do in order to go forward, right? So the I felt like I have found finally like cracked how we can detect an excuse because like even if the very aware of what's going on, the person like I mean the person who always works on this like myself, right? Even then I often find myself in the situation of it's actually not an excuse, it's a valid reason why I can't do XYZ, right? And then I let myself off the hook. So I have been thinking what could be so useful for my clients, for myself, the the way to detect if it's an excuse or not. So, what is an excuse, right? Is really the question then. Excuse for me is a reason, any reason that gets us away from going for what we want. Any reason that gets us away from what we want. Now, there might be also reasons why we want to be in that moment, not pursuing what we want, right? But we really, I think, often gets confused and we just tell ourselves different stories of why we can't do X, Y, Z. And we never really explore questioning whether those reasons are valid or whether those reasons are actually reasons, or we just say, we can't in that moment, right? So that's why, how do you detect if it's an excuse or not? Is by doing this thing. So let's say that you want to pursue transitioning, right? You want to pursue transitioning to be not only living the life the way you want to, meaning having the fulfilled life or having fulfilled, impactful work, but also having like time to spend with your loved ones or creating time for um, spending or creating time for relationships that you want to, for families you want to, right? So let's imagine that's the like the goal you are going for, that's what you really want to have all of these things at the same time. This is the transition you are wanting to make, right? So when you tell yourself this is what I want, of course your brain will be wanting to come up with lots of reasons why that might be difficult, that might be impossible, that might be something that you can't do now. That so your brain will like just like my brain and many of our brains, I think, come up with those reasons. What we often do then is we just allow our brains to talk us out of it, right? To talk us out of going for that thing. Because we believe in that moment that it's not an excuse, we just believe that's the truth of how it is. That's the truth of how we can't do XYZ, and therefore we just don't pursue it. Now, in that moment, when your brain comes up with these reasons, as to why we can't go for what we want, why we can't transition, I really want you to question that reason. The usual way that we may question it is by saying, oh, at this moment, I can't really afford to do these things because I don't have time or because I don't have money or because I don't have energy because I'm tired. We just like, I think we don't even question it. We more like explain to ourselves why it can't work, right? But the way that I'm suggesting the excuse detector tool is this where you actually don't question those reasons from how things are now, who you are now, but question it from if you really believed yourself and your achievements and of your capabilities, would you really follow these reasons or would you actually question? Right? Would you just blindly follow these reasons or you would question them? So, for instance, if your brain says, well, I can't really afford it, even if I wanted to, I can't really afford to spend time on this, or I can't really afford to spend money on this, on investing, on finding out for myself, or getting hiring a coach, finding out for myself if this is what I want, right? Or how I can make this work. I can't really afford, for instance, is your reasoning, right? So if you really believed yourself being the person who can solve things, if you really believed yourself to be the person who can make things happen, how would you question that reason of I can't afford? So you might be asking questions like, is that really true? Right? Is that really true that you can't afford it? What is it actually you cannot afford it? Not spending whatever the amount now on figuring out, or you can't afford to live the life you want to actually. Because whenever we tell ourselves I can't afford it, whatever it is, it's actually the reason why we should be affording it because that's the reason why we're not living the life we want to, right? So for instance, if we say I can't afford to spend time on this, excuse me, is actually the reason why we need to work on that time management because time is the reason why we keep telling ourselves we can't live the life we want to. The same, it goes for money, right? If we say I can't afford to spend money on this, then actually that's the reason, that's the thing we need to be working on because if we're saying that I can't really create money or I can't really earn this money, that's also the reason why we're not transitioning. That's also the reason why we're not going for what we really want to go because we're afraid of making that amount of money somewhere else. We're afraid of our abilities to make that money. We're afraid that we will not be hired by anyone else for this amount of money, right? So that's why whatever the thing that we believe we can't afford, that's the thing that we need to solving for so that we can live the life we want to. But because we don't often question that, or we just believe at face value that this is what it is, and therefore we just use it as a reason not to go, even though that is actually an excuse, because that is actually the reason that we could solve, but we're not really doing that because we're just looking at this problem from our current abilities or current way of thinking of ourselves, which says, oh, I can't really solve that, or I don't really know how to solve that. But the excuse detector that I'm suggesting is really putting yourself in the position of if you really believed yourself, if you really believed your abilities of what you have achieved so far, you've recognized them. If you really believed who you are, the being the person who can solve any of these reasons, any of these problems, would this really be a reason that you will want to solve, that you can solve? Or is this the reason that you just want to follow and say, no, this is absolutely objectively a reason that can't be solved and therefore I can't go for it, right? So one of the examples that I want to use actually is my own example from a recent experience, and I will tell you in a minute. And I could also see how easy it could be for me to just use it as a reason not to go for it. But I kept always telling myself, okay, if I really believed in my abilities, if I really believed of my experience, my achievements of the past, is this really the is this really the reason that I can't go for what I want? Or is this really an excuse that I'm telling myself and therefore I'm just not, I'm choosing not to solve it basically. Right? So you remember, or maybe you haven't heard me say this, but I have been wanting to go for a training in the US since January, I think. And I was accepted to that training, and everything is great. I paid a very good amount of money for this, so I'm so excited about that. Now, always the question of visa for me, right? So, and you may know me by now saying that I'm not someone who really like graciously go through the visa process. I tend to have lots of emotions around it. I tend to like criticize a lot about it, saying like it's not fair and all of the things. But I also know that I go through all of those visa processes. So what happened was when I was about to get uh, about to prepare myself for the visa. I have filled out all the application for the US Embassy in Kyrgyzstan. It was like a long list of things that I needed to do in the process, right? To be able to apply for a visa, basically. Now, as soon as I finished that thing, I realized that the Kyrgyz embassy, sorry, U.S. embassy in Kyrgyzstan does not have any available spots to interview me. They were booked for the whole year. Then I thought, okay, I hit my limit. It doesn't depend on me. So my brain immediately told me, well, it doesn't depend on me. I did my best. Um, there's nothing I can do. Right? So it would have been so easy for me to stay at that level. And there's nothing I can do. I've done my best. And then I thought, okay, I know that I really want to get rid of this. I really don't want to go through all of this. So that's why that's like such an easy way out. But let me really get creative and see if I can solve this any other way, right? Because the goal is I want to go to the US to attend my training in person. So then I started asking around people as to how they do it in the co-working space where I was working. And one of the ladies amazingly told me that her brother went to Kazakhstan to get his visa for the US. So I thought, great, can I apply for Kazakhstan? And I started searching. And it turns out I can. So I did another application of that long application because for every location you need to do a new application. So I did another one of those long things. I tried not to complain, not to get angry. I did all of that. And then I paid, and oh, sorry, when I finished that application, I saw that there was a slot for early July, and I got so excited. And I'm like, okay, great. And I needed to pay $160 dollar fee for getting interviewed, right? Or for processing the documents. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to pay. And I was about to pay, and then there were some issues with the bank anyway. So after solving all of those problems, I saw that the slot that I was aiming for was gone. It was gone, and it was already impossible to get an appointment until September or something. And I was like, of course, pissed. But at the same time, my brain is immediately like, ah, so you've tried your best then. We can't do anything about it. And then I again went back to, okay, how would I solve this problem if I really could? What else could depend on me that I could solve? Right. So then I thought, okay, if I can apply for a visa in Kazakhstan, why wouldn't I be able to do that in Uzbekistan? So I started searching in Uzbekistan and I did the application again. And then I contacted the embassy. By the way, I contacted the previous times as well, the embassies, they all said no, right? So this time I contacted the US embassy in Uzbekistan explaining my situation. And they said, no, we can't really take it because it's not an urgent situation. So therefore, you need to go in line. And there was no opening slot in line, even though I was in Uzbekistan at the time. So I could have gone to the interview, but that didn't happen. Then I thought, okay, then I will apply for a visa in Italy because we were about to go to Italy. And I thought I will apply for Italy. So I started filling out the application for Florence and then for Rome. And then what do you know? They don't have any slots open. Again, by that time, I was just like so close to giving up. I was like, okay, I really did my best. No one can blame me that I didn't do anything, right? I did my best, and literally, there's nothing I can do anymore. I was thinking at the time. And then I heard another amazing friend applying for a visa in Poland. And I never considered this before because I I knew there was this clause, the restriction that you need to be a resident to apply for a certain visa, right? You can't just go and apply in so many different countries. So then I started searching Poland and I started looking at several options, Warsaw and Krakow. And then I realized that in Krakow, you can apply for visa even if you're not resident in Poland. And I jumped on it and then I applied. I paid the fee, and then it was impossible to pay the fee because my registration previously was in Central Asia, so they wouldn't let me. So I needed to call and do all the things, and then they changed my status, and then I was able to apply for a visa in Poland. And I had to come all the way from Italy to Poland to do the interview, which I did yesterday. And my photo was not right, so I did the whole photo thing anyway. So I went all of this through, and then my visa was pre-approved, meaning that I will get the visa. So currently, I'm here in Krakow waiting for my visa. So all of this story to tell you is that there are so many moments in our lives. It's so easy to use as a reason why we can't do one thing, right? I could also use so many times that it doesn't depend on me. Obviously, it doesn't depend on me how they decide on the visa, but it all depended on me how many times and where I applied for to get the visa. I could have also easily said I couldn't. It's objectively impossible, I could have said to myself, but then I kept asking myself if I could really solve this issue, if I could really believe that I'm the person who can do this, who doesn't give up, who always finds a solution. If I'm that person, how would I solve it? Right. So that's why I really want you to use any excuses or, sorry, any reasons that your brain tells currently that is the reason why you can't do or you can't live the life you want to. For instance, your brain say that you have a lot of problems now, you can't really do that. So in other words, not now reason, right? Then you will put yourself in this position of if you could be the person who can always solve problems, you can always find solutions, who believes herself so much, himself so much, that if we can achieve those things that we have achieved already, then how else could we achieve this one, right? If we always look at things, reasons from that perspective, from that version of ourselves, then how would we solve it? What are the questions we would ask? How would we challenge those reasons? Is that really possible that we can do the thing we want to do to move forwards to our goals while having those problems and while trying to solve those problems? Do we want to work on both of them, right? Or another one that might be like, I don't know, or I'm not really sure type of reasons. So you can again ask yourself, if you really believed yourself, how would you find out the answer? What are the questions you would be asking yourself? What are the help you would be seeking? How are the ways that you would really feel like you know the answer to this question, or you know what you really want, right? So you would be questioning those reasons as to why you can't do or why you can't live the life you want to. You would question it more powerfully. Excuse me. You would be questioning it more substantially, more genuinely to coming to the truth of what it is behind all of these reasons, right? In the end, you may also choose not to pursue it, and that's fine. But I really want you to be like questioning that and really getting your honest answer as to how you could actually afford it if you really believed your abilities to make things work, if you really honored your desires to make things work, how could you really afford it? What are the times you would be finding to make this happen? Where you would find the money to get the help you want to, or to learn the ability of making money that you want to, so you have that financial freedom to be choosing the life you want to be creating the life you want to, right? So that's why, to sum up, I really want you to be like looking at any reason that your brain comes up with, like a competition, or like the world is in recession now, or whatever the reasons that your brain comes up as to why you can't go for what you really want to. Always put yourself first in the position of, if I really believed my abilities of all the things I have achieved so far, right? If I really believe that I'm someone who can solve any reasons, any issues going forward to what I want to, how would I question this reason? Or how would I solve this reason? Is this even a reason, or I'm just using it not to go forward, or I'm using it to delay? And if I'm using it, then being onto yourself, being honest and saying, okay, I don't want this reason to be the reason why I don't live the life I want to, right? I can't afford to be the reason why I don't live my life the way I want to. And therefore I'm going to solve it this way, or I'm going to get help to solve this way, and then move forward to what I want to. That's really my message. That way, you will never allow yourself to just follow the excuses or honor the excuses, but rather honor your truth, honor your power, honor like all of your achievements, all of your abilities, to say you are someone who can solve any of the reasons that stand in the way of living the life you want to. So come coach with me on this topic. I would love to coach you and remove all of the reasons that could stand in the way of you living life, you making the impact you want to, and spending time with loved ones the way you want to. Have an amazing weekend, my dears. Speak to you very soon.